who better than me?
Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to another episode of The Hardcore Casual with your boy, Bass the Kid. First things first, I always want to say a big thank you to any and everyone who tuned in to the debut episode of my show alongside Tony Pugilist Boy Cox, aka The Pugilist, aka TPC, on the Undefeated Podcast network channel, which we do now every Tuesday. It's going to be live streamed every Tuesday 8 p.m. Big shout out to everyone who jumped on board and supported that. It was a big look. The video's doing really good numbers. It's had very positive feedback so far, and I'm looking forward to doing it more often. The fact that it's on a Tuesday though means that some of these might be a bit more scattered around as opposed to what I was previously doing. But the aim will be to have a video every Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So anywhere within those days, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday normally, but maybe not the Friday. Some days it might jump to the Saturday, especially if there's a big fight on, because there definitely will have to be a basis picks and all that sort of good stuff. But yeah, I just want to say a quick thank you to everyone for that. Gonna do this one a little bit different. I'm gonna go back to the original style of just going through the motions rather than talking about each individual segment and sort of, splitting them up. So after the intro, we're just going to get into whatever's been happening over the week. Okay, so I guess the first place I have to start is where I left off during the breakdown with Tony. Now, we were talking about the McKinson and Ortiz fight. Little did we then know, as soon as we came off air, within an hour, news broke that Ortiz was no longer in the fight due to having some kind of blood issue. I can't remember the name of the actual condition, and I'm not gonna bother look it up right now, but I think it's a breakdown of like proteins within the blood when you're supposed to be, when you're losing muscle mass or whatnot. So some people said that they saw him look like he was overweight beforehand. That could very well be a reason why. McKinson is still going to be boxing on the card, but I can't remember the name of the guy he's going to be going against now. So I believe that Blair the Flair Cobbs is going to be headlining the card now instead of McKinson. So I guess for McKinson, hey, he still gets the same pay that he was getting before, probably an easier opponent. Gets to be on the card a bit earlier so he can go out and do whatever he wants to do that night, and hopefully they run back the showdown a little later on. So I mean, I feel for him because this would have been the biggest test of his career. I do believe that Ortiz would have dealt with him, but that being said, if he put up a really big performance, he could have made a name for himself, and it definitely could have been like a stepping stone. So unfortunate on that, but it is what it is. Speaking of Blair the Flair Cobbs, he came out in an interview while I believe he was doing a warm-up for the fight earlier on in the week, basically saying how Errol Spence Jr. is scared. He's been scared of Terence Crawford. He's been ducking him for God knows how long. And then he also made an interesting comment saying that Errol Spence Jr. is now cursed. He said, because he's been ducking Crawford, like he's been cursed. So there's the car accident, there's the eye injury, there's like being in 2 fights in the last 3.5 years, like all of these delays that have happened to his career ever since he's been ducking Terence Crawford. And it was an interesting take. Like, I can't wholeheartedly dismiss it and just say, oh, he's just chatting, because a lot of stuff has happened to you ever since this whole thing has happened. So is it purely coincidence, or is it just a case that, sometimes when you put that bad karma and that bad energy out there, when people want certain things from you, that this is what happens? Who knows? I mean, like I said, it's interesting. So, I'm gonna keep reserved on that, but he does make me laugh. And obviously Errol Spence Jr. came back, basically called him a 33-year-old prospect, and said that, like, well, if he's cursed, what do you think's happened to you? Because obviously, like, Blair's career hasn't really taken off either. But to be fair to him, he's called out a lot of people. He, as limited of a fighter as he might be, like, he does appear to, quote unquote, want the smoke. So I can't blame, you know, I can't fault a man for, you know, for wanting the tests and not getting them. You know, there's things like that happen. So if I move on from that real quick, let me talk about, if we're going to be talking about beefs on, you know, internet and Twitter and whatnot, Sandy Ryan and Chantelle Cameron had a rather interesting exchange back at the start of the week. Obviously, as you guys know, Sandy Ryan lost to Erica Farias last weekend in a very, very dangerous step-up fight. She's now 3-1. She was aiming for the 4-0. I mean, I take absolutely no joy in her losing, because I like Sandy. I think she's a great talent, and I think she will do well. But I also take no credit away from her for taking such a step up, because there's very few boxers in general, men or women, that would sort of take that kind of step up on only their fourth fight with very little. Okay, she's got a decent amateur pedigree, but I mean, in terms of, like, she's not a, you know, a 200 or 300 plus amateur fight type person, you know, to be taking that kind of step in the pros like so quickly. So I give her all the respect. But it's interesting because the beef between the two of them initially started, I'm talking about from the weekend. Look, there's been stuff that's happened way in the past beforehand, but someone made a comment saying, oh, and this is the girl that thought she could beat Chantelle Cameron, blah blah blah. Chantelle's just responded to that. He's like, look, levels. Another boxer, MMA girl jumped in, I don't remember her name, she got involved in it. Chantelle was just like, you know, it is what it is, essentially. Then Clifton Mitchell, funny enough, ended up beefing with Chantelle. I remember he called her fat face, which was, I'm not really gonna say funny, because I know, you know, weight to a lot of women is an issue, and I'm definitely not going to be playing them kind of jokes. Like, but I guess if you're in a division where you're supposed to be making weight and being in shape all year round, so to speak, if you let yourself go, maybe you are open to that kind of criticism. So who knows? But what I thought was funny, and I don't even mean funny haha, I just mean funny like it don't really make no sense. Clifton's calling Chantelle fat face, alluding to her being overweight or whatnot, but your girl just missed weight on the scales after she already had 2 pounds grace from her natural weight anyway. She's a 140 pounder. The fight was agreed at 142 and she came in at 144 plus. So it's a bit rich to be calling another girl fat when your girl can't make weight on scales for whatever reason. Like, I'm not, like I said, I'm not judging Sandy at all, but I'm just saying, like, in terms of hypocrisy, like, I'm very big on keeping the same energy in it. I don't really do hypocrisy myself. So for you to make that kind of statement to an ex-woman when your woman ain't even producing what she needs to produce and you know, staying in the shape she's supposed to be staying in, like, that's a bit wild to me. But either way, the two of them jumped in back and forth, was getting at each other, like, bitch this, like, punch your face in, rare. And Chantelle, you could tell, obviously, she was having fun, because at that point, it's literally just a case of, when you get to a point where it makes sense for me to punch your face in, I'll happily do that. Don't worry about me, worry about getting your loss back. Like, worry about righting that wrong. Worry about, you know, getting back in the winning record. Stop worrying about people that ain't right in front of you. That's why you lost your last fight. Now, there's a bit, maybe there's some truth in that. Maybe you were looking past who was in front of you to what could be coming in front of that. So look, Sandy needs to get herself back in, you know, back on the saddle, as they say, back on the horse. Like, if she's gonna run it back with Farias, I mean, look, she's have a better chance to beat her the second time round because Farias won't be able to surprise her again. But that being said, like, Erica is not a pushover. Like, she's a very credible fighter. So if you are gonna take that fight again, whatever you didn't do this camp, you need to do it in the next one. Sticking on Twitter beef, Anthony Joshua and Joyce got into a little altercation. Now, for those of you who have seen my show on Undefeated podcast's channel, you'll also see that there's another show on there with October Red Boxing's very own, called Undefeated Red News. She basically broke it down on there, so feel free to go over there to actually read the quotes and see what was said. But essentially, Anthony Joshua has basically said, look, I've fought Otto Wallin in the amateurs twice. I fought Joyce in the amateurs and I stopped him. Like, anyone thinking that I'm scared to fight these man is not living in the same world that I'm living in. Then 5 days after that, for instance, Joyce comes back basically calling Anthony Joshua a glass cannon, saying that he's manufactured, everything's been handed to him, like it's basically he's on easy mode. And Joshua's like, it took you 5 days to come up with that. Like, it's mad responding to a tweet 5 days later. Like, when you was clearly active on Twitter a couple of days before that. So literally, why has it taken you so long to get back in your bag and talk about that stuff? It's a bit weird. But look, that's a viable fight that I guess could happen. But as you've heard me say previously, Joshua needs to forget that for now, because unless he wants to have that and then have another fight before Usyk, but he needs to strictly be working against southpaws right now. So as I said, Wallin's a good fight. Ortiz is a good fight. I would even say as I said before, take Zhilei Zhang out of the fight with Hrgovic and let him face Joshua, because that in itself is good work. You know, Jerry Forrest is, you know, these are the type of guys that you need to be getting in there with for your quote unquote warm up or trial run or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, overall, I mean, that's pretty much where we're at the minute. So this weekend, I know Edgar Berlanga's going to be fighting Steve Rose. That's probably now going to be the best fight of the weekend, considering we haven't got Ortiz and McKinson anymore. Ramla Ali's going to be fighting in Dubai on, you know, a certain person's undercard, another Capricorn, but you know, someone whose name I can't now mention based on certain things that happened. You know, those who know. So I will leave that one there as well, but I will be trying to make a play to watch as much of the boxing this week as I can. But as it's not a big week, I do have some other stuff that I will be doing as well. So I might not be heavily invested in what's going on, if I'm gonna be real. What other news came out this week? Well, I mean, Frank Warren, he's always good for a laugh. He did an interview on Seconds Out the other day. Pretty much the entire interview was about Eddie Hearn and the failure of DAZN and them not having subscribers and whatnot. I don't know how it all sort of transpired that it had to all be about Eddie, but hey, I mean, Frank does come up with some good one-liners, but the difference between Frank and Eddie is Frank always seems to sound very bitter and like angry that the fact that Eddie Hearn is in any sort of position whatsoever, whereas when it's the other way around, Eddie just seems a bit almost condescending and like, you're really beneath me, there's no point me talking about you that much, kind of thing. But he was talking about the DAZN books again, and you know that they've lost all this money, blah blah blah. But the thing what I feel like people keep framing the whole DAZN thing, they're a money losing business and whatnot, but do people not realize that the reason DAZN have such high losses is because they've been buying up rights across the world for everything? Like, they're buying up sports rights, you know, they're buying up football in Germany, in Japan they're sending like the NFL and stuff, they're playing that over in Japan. Like, all of the losses that you see comes down to the fact that they've spent a lot of money outside of even just boxing. Like, probably the losses they've made in boxing is pretty minuscule compared to everything else. As a subscription service, the same with even Netflix right now isn't actually a money-making venture. Like, they don't make money, they just have a lot of liquid cash because they have a huge amount of subscribers. Disney Plus, the same thing. Amazon Prime, HBO Max in America, you know, Hulu and whatnot. None of them are in the profits yet in terms of guaranteed profits year on year, but they have strong cash flow because they've got like guaranteed money coming in, but they have to spend on rights, and every time you spend on a right, it ends up going in the loss column. And you know, Frank is obviously being very clever by not mentioning that to the public. He's just, oh, they're losing money. Well, yes, they're losing money, but they're losing money for a reason, because they're buying up rights for the long-term gain. It's the same thing that probably Box Nation tried to do and maybe failed back in the day, which is why you're no longer a part of that. And then realistically, if we're talking about money-making endeavors, how much money is your shows on BT Sport really making these days? I mean, I can't see any of them really turning a profit. You had a show last week. I forgot that there was a show on. I still ain't watched it now. So if I'm like that, and it didn't come on directly after the football either, so if I didn't watch it, how many other people didn't? And I'm probably a bit more hardcore than anyone else. So if you got hardcore fans that ain't watching your shows, how would like, what hope do you have of your shows actually making money or gaining traction in terms of your demographics and your viewing figures? You know, I don't know, basically. But look, it's always fun when the two of them beef. So sometimes, yeah, it's frustrating to listen to certain things that are said, but overall, yeah, it's funny and it's entertainment, and that's what we want. So, you know, I'll leave that one there. Trying to think, was there much else? Oh, well, I guess the last thing I'll leave on is that Philip Hrgović and Zhilei Zhang has been confirmed as the co-main event to Dimitri Bivol and Canelo Alvarez. That's actually a very good place to put that fight, I ain't gonna lie. I like that because I feel like it will get eyeballs on whoever wins that, because the next that person will be one of the next up in terms of you know, a championship shot, whether it's against AJ, Usyk, Fury, or even a vacant title. But being on the undercard of a Canelo fight, being the fight just before his, will get you a lot of visibility. So if you have a great performance and a devastating knockout, then yeah, you're gonna be sort of set in the minds of a good amount of people. So good luck to them. Now, as I can't remember if there's anything else specific to talk about from this week. I'm gonna leave it there. As I said, this one I've just done in an old school format because I haven't addressed anything that's happened this week already. But yeah, I'm gonna leave that there. Again, if you guys can, outside of what I'm doing, please jump back on the Undefeated podcast. Obviously, they did the podcast show yesterday, Thursday. You know, they got Monday Night Smoke on Monday. Now you got the breakdown on Tuesdays. You also get you know, Undefeated Red News throughout the week. So Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, whenever the news happens. Like I said, my shows are now going to be Wednesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, any variation of that, and I'll still be aiming to do 3 a week. So please like and subscribe, as I always say. If you like the content, share it with a friend, a colleague, family member, enemy, acquaintance, you know, whoever. Just, you know, share it if they've got interest. Thank you for watching, and for now, Hardcore Casual out.